The origins of policing in the United States are deeply linked to the country's history of slavery and racism. The establishment of slave patrols in the southern states set a precedent for modern law enforcement, shaping its foundation in racism and oppression. Recognizing the police's origins as slave patrols is essential in understanding the systemic racial biases that still exist in law enforcement today. Slave patrols, the origins of policing in the U.S. The roots of modern policing in the United States can be traced back to the institution of slave patrols in the South during the 18th and 19th centuries. These patrols operated under various laws and regulations and were responsible for maintaining the oppressive system of slavery. They were tasked with enforcing discipline upon enslaved people and suppressing any form of resistance, safeguarding the economic interests of slave owners. These patrols were authorized to capture and return escaped slaves, as well as to prevent slave revolts using brutal and inhumane methods to enforce compliance. This historical foundation laid the groundwork for the development of law enforcement in the U.S., deeply intertwining the concept of policing with racial control and oppression. Racial biases in law enforcement. The legacy of slave patrols has left a lasting impact on the evolution of law enforcement in the United States, particularly in the perpetuation of racial biases. Throughout history, police forces have been instrumental in maintaining racial segregation and have used violent tactics against civil rights activists to perpetuate racially discriminatory practices. These systemic racial biases continue to manifest in modern-day law enforcement, resulting in widespread racial profiling, unjust targeting of minority communities, and disproportionate use of force against people of color. Statistics reveal alarming disparities in the rates of arrests, convictions, and police brutality incidents, which underscore the enduring influence of racist origins on the contemporary realities of the criminal justice system. The need for acknowledgement and reform. Understanding the racist origins of the police in the U.S. is vital in addressing systemic inequalities within law enforcement. The oppressive legacy of slave patrols has deeply influenced the modern policing system, necessitating acknowledgement and meaningful reforms. Dismantling racial biases and promoting accountability through de-escalation tactics is crucial. Initiatives such as community policing, cultural competency training, and diversification of police forces play a pivotal role in fostering trust and equity. These reforms are essential to combat the systemic racial biases deeply ingrained in law enforcement and contribute to creating a more just and equitable system for all communities. Conclusion. By acknowledging the disturbing history of slave patrols and the racially discriminatory foundations of modern policing in the United States, society can actively work towards reform to create a more just and equitable future for all individuals impacted. The formation of slave patrols in the southern states during the 18th and 19th centuries established the precedent for modern law enforcement, shaping its foundation in racism and oppression. This troubling history underscores the systemic inequities and racial injustices that persist within law enforcement today. Reform initiatives such as community policing, cultural competency training, and diversification of police forces play a pivotal role in fostering trust and equity. Acknowledging this history is vital in addressing systemic inequalities within law enforcement and dismantling racial biases.